Welcome back to episode 5 of my personal journey towards financial freedom. Now, as you can already tell, I have a different background. I got my warm woolen sweater on, and I'm back in Norway now for the next few months before settling down back in London or maybe Oslo. I really haven't quite decided yet. Now, this video was actually meant to be posted a few weeks ago, but my last month was probably my craziest in terms of my business. So what I'll do is I'll share with you what I recorded back then to give you an update on the month of February up until the middle of March, and also briefly how the business is going. Now, in my next episode style video, I will also give you an update on how the 6 months went. What did I learn? Was it worth it? Was it everything I expected it to be? And so much more. Essentially a full summary of everything. And it will probably be more in the 30-minute mark, so more long format, longer than my usual episodes, which are currently at 15 minutes. And I know there's a lot I want to go through and talk about, but I really need to condense all of my thoughts so I can provide you with the best possible rundown. And as you know, I have been very honest about my struggles, what went well, what didn't go well. So I have 6 months of daily notes and thoughts that turned into realizations as well as lessons that I want to walk you through and just really give you the full update. So before that, here is the recap of February. So for me, February has been a pretty good month. I look back at February and I'm like, wow, I had so much growth. And I think it's becoming a thing now where the more I actually stay in the battlefield, the more I actually notice the growth. I mean, I've been here for 5 months now, which is kind of crazy. And I've had a few challenges, but it's also how I deal with them that's so much more healthy. So instead of saying, oh my God, Darren, you are a failure, what is wrong with you? It's, wow, today we didn't do X or Y for 3 weeks instead of 2. That's an extra week. That's progress. Good job, Darren, right? It's just that mindset shift has done so much, being more positive, looking at it on the bright side instead of you're lacking, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. It's all about progress, you look at where were you yesterday? Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, which is actually probably something I'll say again in this video, I know it. I have also been trying to hack my brain in a sense by controlling my dopamine schedule to optimize for my motivation and pleasure. Now, dopamine is about the pursuit of pleasure, not the ability to experience pleasure. And obviously, it's not a secret, but I have had some pretty strong distractions while I've been here. So, for example, I don't celebrate client wins anymore in my business as much as I used to. Because when I did, it was easier to crash and to fall back to games, which, often happen. And I was like, Darren, you deserve this. You can play 2 games, but that would then lead me to going a little bit overboard, right? I would play until midnight or, 1 a.m. on a Saturday. No, it doesn't sound bad, but when I tell myself I'm going to wake up early on a Sunday or whatever, you have to stick to those schedule, or that schedule. I also tried snooze again as well. Now, for those that don't know what this is, it's essentially these small little nicotine pouches that you put under your lip. And I wanted to try to help ride out the withdrawal effects that I felt, but it actually ended up in me getting hooked on it again, and I had to quit. Because one of the things that obviously you do when you pursue when you kind of give into that dopamine is that you want to crave it, right? Like it's like I mentioned, it's about the pursuit. So what if I could sort of give myself a reward that wasn't games, and try and optimize it like that. One of the things that I read up on, for example, was that coffee naturally increases your dopamine levels by 30%. So I've been trying to experiment, when should I have my cup of coffee during the day versus, first thing in the morning like I used to do. Now, one thing that is related to this as well is my personality, right? I'm a very competitive person. I like to win. I like to compete. Now, most friends and family that know me, they know I'm a competitive person, all the way back into high school when we had, PE class, or whether it's video games, whether it's sports, I love to compete. I like that rush that you get. Now, one thing I learned about that was that dopamine can actually cause high achievers or people that are very competitive to become manipulative and unpleasant, right? Because dopamine doesn't really care how you reach your goals. It only cares that you do reach your goals. Now, for me, this was a very important thing to keep in mind, because you could risk saying something just for that immediate result instead of thinking about the long term, right? So becoming aware of that was actually a really valuable lesson for me. And how I became aware of that was with my business. So one of the things that I had a urge to do was to tell my clients like, oh, I've got tons of clients. I produce all these results, but I realized like that's not going to work because you're just going to bite yourself in the ass later on down the line. So, now I'm honest with all of them. Like, hey, I've been at this for 3 months now. I have X amount of clients. It's a work in progress. But I'm a hard worker. I aim to produce you these results. I don't have, a bunch of testimonials that I can refer to. And that seems to really work. And it also makes me feel more at ease, actually. So, but yeah, that has been a really valuable lesson for me. And I think just going forward as well, just keeping that in mind, because that urge, that tendency can very easily come, especially if you really want to win. You're just like, I don't care how I win, I just want to win, right? I want to get that client. I want to, like my goal every single month was like, I'm going to get X amount of clients, I'm going to do this. And so if I was one short, I'm like, I'll say whatever just to achieve that. So that was a very important lesson for me to learn. And one thing I often think about is, what is the ultimate goal? What is the pursuit? What is success? I always ask myself this question, right? Because why do I do what I do? Because it's very easy to forget. When you get comfortable, when those comfy thoughts come back and you just want to put on a movie and relax, that's when it's key to remind yourself of the path that you are on. And this question will likely always be there as well, because I realize that I'm not going to get to a point where I won't be tempted to give in to my immediate desires, right? And I think even the most successful people will often have thoughts of, wouldn't it be nice to just relax for a minute? So I've gotten very comfortable with that discomfort, more specifically just sitting with it, sitting with those feelings and accepting and moving on. One of my friends, he's been teaching me this NLP method, right? It's like, hey, just neuro-linguistic programming. You sit down, you're supposed to find these triggers and replace them. And one of my clients, she, because I work in the mental health industry, I work with therapists and psychotherapists and counselors, right? So they do have a lot of these resources and tools. And I was actually honest with one of them, and I was like, hey, look, one of my challenges is video games. Sometimes I get this urge, this really strong urge. It kind of feels heavy at the back of my mind. And if nothing else can sort of please or kind of relinquish that urge, right? Nothing else works. I've tried it all. I have to play because that's the only thing that kind of, it takes away that pain that I feel, this major discomfort. And she's like, sit with it, because your brain, it thinks that it needs it to survive. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. So in your subconsciously, you think you need it. You think that you need this to survive. And so every time you do end up giving into it, you just re-engage that cycle. And so that has been super valuable. Even for the times, those few times that I do give in, I then ask myself, why do I do it? Right? I also ask, why can't I do it? Because when I say something, why can't I just stick to it? I wish it was that simple. When you tell yourself, I'm going to do this, why did you say it? Because you know deep down that this is what you need to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't say it. When you know you should do something and you do the opposite, why is that? Right? As humans, we're not robots. We can't just switch and all of a sudden do everything we want to do. So, many people out there, they want to do things, they have goals, they have dreams, yet they don't do anything about it. Emotions keep us back. And that's why patience and perseverance is key when trying to develop discipline, to know you have to do the thing that you have to do, but sometimes can feel like you don't want to do. My goal is freedom, and true freedom is impossible without a mind made free by discipline. And that to me is really the key to success, right? Success is the ability to spend your life in your own way. Success is the ability to get what I want. That to me is my definition of success, because this really varies from person to person. That is why success does not need to be dependent on an excess of money or fame or status. That's why there is the famous saying of, don't compare yourself to someone else, but compare yourself to who you were yesterday. The goal is the pursuit of freedom. And personally, in order to achieve that, I need to provide value for people. First, I need to learn about my discipline, but I also need to provide value for people so that I can have enough money to do what I want. You don't get rich through events. You don't get rich through the lottery or some magic happening, but through constant process and by developing something valuable to someone else. You don't win unless you can positively impact people's life. Now, when I say you don't win, is more about what your personal goal is, right? Again, everyone has personal goals, but I think in order to, and I'm speaking from a personal perspective here, how I see it, how I want to live my life is, in order to achieve that wealth, you need to live a very humble life for a few years, right? It requires sacrifice, and by that I mean giving up a lot of the fun and the relaxing and the lifestyle, plus the social life, relationships, leisure, etc., etc., etc. And I think we have it very good. I don't see anything wrong with living a life the way you want to live it, but you need to ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to live 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or even 20 years? Picture your ideal life and then ask yourself, what would I have to do to live that life? What would you have to do? What is your plan to achieve that life? Because we don't control time. Time is it goes away. So very often, in order to achieve what you have to do, depends what your goals are, but if you want to, let's say, achieve a little bit of wealth, get some extra money, you have to think about, the concept of, this game theory, zero-sum game, for example. You need to provide value to society and improve the lives of others, right? So you gain and they gain, which actually leads me to business. I haven't spoken about that in a while now, and I've been actually very caught up in trying to improve myself through discipline to develop a greatness of character. And honestly, this focus has been slightly distracting. When your thoughts are, how do I avoid not playing games and improving myself, instead of how can I improve my business, you got to do something. Now, that is not to say that I have not had any progress, on the contrary, actually. So since I closed my first client, I have changed a lot in the business, and I currently have 6 clients. And I think the last time that I mentioned that because I got my first client, that was in the end of December, very early January. So, when I posted that January update, I think that was episode 3. So just a quick recap. My initial plan was to help mental health professionals with marketing so they could attract more clients to their business. Now, the services that I was going to provide, they were rather costly, right? Upwards of £2,000 per month per client. And the math just doesn't add up, right? Because a typical psychotherapist, they will see around 20 clients a week, right? So let's assume they charge £60 per session. That's £1,200 per week, which is £4,800 per month gross, right? So add living expenses, tax expenses, bills, and how much do they have left? It was really hard to sell them this really expensive service in the beginning, and that's why I had to change my approach. I'm in this niche, I'm not selling to major businesses that have, 10K marketing budgets a month. I'm selling to private, solo business owners. So that's why I changed my approach. I now offer a service which first helps them add an additional 50% to their salary on an annual basis. Now, if they make £50,000 a year, my goal is to get them to £75,000 per year. Now, with this new and improved offer that I'm selling to them, I get 20% of what they make every single month through this new service. So let's say that they make £25,000 per year, just as a very, very low minimum, because sometimes I want to go at the lowest level here. You take 20% of that, divide it by 12, so that's roughly £2,000 per month. 20% of that, that's £400 per month, right? So £400 per month per client. Now, you double their salary, so let's say they're making 50K a year, that's £800 per month per client, and that's just on that service, right? So of course, I also have a plan by which to increase this by actually offering them new services that further help them grow their business, so they can feel better, help more people, and have more freedom. Now, I actually went on to talk more about the business in that video, but I would rather save that for the future in its own separate video. So for now, I want to thank you for watching, and I'm very excited to give you an all in-depth into everything that I learned over the past 6 months. And for those that know me, I'm still the same Darren, right? But I have built the right foundations that will further serve me for life in a really positive way. So I would appreciate a like, and if you want to follow my journey, hit the subscribe button to get updates on my next video. Thank you for watching.